This is Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in San Diego County today, joined by Dr. Luis Ibarra. He is the superintendent of the Escondido Union School District, a K-8 district in Escondido.
Yes, Escondido.
Just Escondido?
Yes.
You don't kind of bleed out to other places?
No, we're
16,000 students. That's a lot of students.
That is a lot of students.
And they have a lot of needs, and we now are in the 21st century, and so many of our schools were built in 1970 or something like that.
Yes.
So what happened on the first week of your job?
First week of my job, the board asked me, they were passing a resolution to decide whether they were going to go out for a school facilities bond.
Yes.
And I said yes. We need
Please,
it.
yes,
we need it. And we put that on the ballot initiative in November of 2014.
And let's talk about that, because it is a challenge to get school bond initiatives passed. Not as much as a tax, which can need 2/3 vote. You needed presumably 55%, is that what happened?
Yes.
And so it was a slight bump above 50%. Talk to us about that time. 2014, it was a more right of center electorate, more not so favorable to maybe taxes?
Correct. The state was just coming out of the Great Recession,
Right.
so it was probably not as favorable.
Right.
We were polling well, but it was still going to be a lot
Right.
of an uphill battle
Okay.
to get the bond initiative. So,
And how'd it do?
well, we passed
By?
182.1 million by a few
It was a good
points.
margin.
Yeah, it was a little bit of margin, but it was we passed.
So almost $200 million.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what's happened since then, because you're 3 years out. So I presume that the parents and kids in Escondido probably are seeing some construction going on.
Yes. Well, our bond was about three things.
Okay.
First, safety and security.
Right.
When our schools were built, they were built wide open for the entire community. When it was a nice time, you can walk onto campus and just walk through the campus day or night.
Those were the days when we went to school.
Absolutely. The world's different.
Right.
So we're talking about fencing. We had some schools that were completely wide open for the community to walk in. So we've had to. So we've started to build the fences. Now every one of our schools has a perimeter fencing, and we're making sure that also it complements the community and doesn't detract it.
Well stated.
That's very important to us, as well as our school board.
Okay.
So fencing's going up. We're also modernizing we started with 3 schools, and we've got a lot of underground work going on at one of our schools, Orange Glen. And when it would rain, the watershed would just come right onto the campus on
really?
the playground, and they'd have a lake in the middle of
Really?
it.
That could have been fun for the kids.
Yes,
Not
but
so safe.
not so safe
Right.
and not so fun for
Right.
everybody trying to walk to
Right.
and from classrooms. So we've got that all taken care of,
Oh, good.
and they ended up with a nice little courtyard in the middle that they
Nice.
can have some outdoor
Nice.
learning.
And then the third area?
The third area was about network and infrastructure. 21st century
Of course.
learning, we need infrastructure. Teachers would try new technology in the classrooms. We would have all these great devices, but inevitably the teachers would get on, or more than 3
Right.
classes, the network would shut down.
Right.
So we've gone through and put in the infrastructure needed to support a one-to-one initiative.
I want to ask about the recently passed state school bond.
Okay, yes.
That was passed in 2016, and that provides $9 billion, $7 billion for K-12,
Correct.
$2 billion for 13-14 community college. The fact that you have Measure E, are you now able to leverage Measure E to get some of that state money that was passed through Prop, I think it was 51?
Yes, absolutely. Because we're able to get in line for these funds now,
Right.
because we have some matching funds. So we're already in line. We submitted all our paperwork for some of our projects, for example, Mission Middle School. So
Nice.
we're in line, and we're waiting for the state to sell their bonds, and then we'll be able to expand more of our
Right.
use of our funds.
I want to talk more about technology, but in the context of objective testing, standardized testing.
Okay.
When we went to school, even when, 5-10 years ago when kids went to school, we would take standardized tests and we would bubble in the answers. Now we have these computerized standardized tests. California schools have adopted what's known as the SBAC, pursuant to Common Core principles. And we've had a couple years of results for this new version of standardized testing. And I would say the results have not been as promising as we would have hoped. Is that a fair way to put it?
That's a fair
And
statement.
so what we know is statewide, English, those that have met standards in English, 49%. Those that have met standards in math, 37%. This is statewide numbers. If you look at, though, economically disadvantaged, and I understand your district has a decent number of economically disadvantaged.
77%.
English meeting standards 35%, math meeting standards 23%. It's really devastating. It's
is,
devastating.
yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, that reflects where we are as
Right.
well. Those achievement results reflect it's not where we want to be. And when I went out to the community and shared the results of where we were, we made comparisons and said let's look at where we were and where we want to be.
Right.
And it's about knowing that our students have much greater potential. See, when I first arrived 3 years ago, I saw the teachers working so hard.
Right.
I mean, our teachers, by far, care so much.
I love that you're saying that.
They just, and they work all hours of weekends. And the principals also are putting this effort. And when they look at their achievement results, they realize it does not reflect our efforts.
Well, let me ask you though, I mean, could it be that we're only a couple years into this new type of testing? And so at some level, there may be some kind of bias against stronger results because, look, it's not that easy to navigate a test on a computer if you're not used to it.
Well, that's definitely is a factor, the
Okay.
technology component. What's also a factor is the standards are much more rigorous.
Right, and different.
And different, absolutely. Math, for example. You know, the students no longer have to complete the algorithm, but they have
Right.
to understand the meaning behind it.
And that's what's so interesting about the Common Core, the California State Standards, is it used to be we would teach a lot and we wouldn't go very deep. Now we're teaching less subjects, I guess you could say, but deeper. And that's where the kids may falter a bit on standardized tests because they may not have that depth of knowledge.
Exactly. And if you're a district if you got students that are learning a second language,
Right.
that's even more,
And
little bit
let's
more
talk
difficult.
about that because that just breaks my heart. When you look at standards in English for English language learners, I mean, by definition, they're going to be challenged, but only 13% met standards. And then in math, which I thought arguably should be transferable, you know, it doesn't matter what language you learn math in, English language learners are at 12% meeting standards.
So that's why our district, what we've done after our first year is we did an intense study. We contracted with WestEd,
Right,
and
sure.
research company.
Yeah,
they came out and did an in-depth evaluation of our program for English learners. And what we found out is because we care so much and we're working so hard, we're doing all the work. We need to release that responsibility. Our students need to grapple. They need to
that's interesting. Struggle
a little bit.
Grit.
And
We've heard about grit.
Grit, exactly. And increasing the rigor is really what was most pronounced in our study. Is we needed to have cohesive systems, and our students needed to. We needed to raise the academic rigor for our students.
Is the local control funding formula, which gives more money to school districts which have a high number of English language learners, is that helping?
Absolutely, it's helping. It's allowing us to put systemic structures in place for all our students, and we're able to address both the social emotional needs of our students as well as our academic needs. So we've got intervention programs going throughout our district. We've got intense professional development, especially as a result of the WestEd report. We now have a strategic plan to implement and address the needs that we have with our students. So it's about focusing our efforts.
Okay, well, I think Escondido's in good hands. I do. His name is Dr. Luis Ibarra. He is the superintendent of the Escondido Union School District in North San Diego County. My name is Brad Pomerance. We thank you so much for joining us on Local Edition.